Yes, can you hear me now?
Very
Yes,
good.
we can.
Do you know each other?
No. Hello, Mika. Bob here.
Hello. I'm okay, thank you.
How are you?
Well, how are you? I'm okay, thank you.
I'm okay.
I met Mika, I think maybe 16 years ago or something like this, 16 or 17 or something like this. We have only met once in real life. And it was in this place where he was building the boats. I mean, in Russian part of Karelia, Vodlajärvi or Vodlozhorsky National Park.
Okay.
And I remember you are there since childhood. Yeah, you used to go there with your father since you was a boy.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. But actually, you lived in Moscow, correct?
Yeah, I was born in Moscow, but I think more than half of my life I spent there in Karelia on Vodlazera.
Mm-hmm. And Bob, you are British, yeah? You.
No, I'm American.
Oh.
But I'm living in England now.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you follow Facebook, Mika. I don't think you do a lot, but Bob was posting last couple of months from what it is?
Guyana.
Guyana. So he was in Guyana researching logboats of Guyana, 2 villages.
Of indigenous people boats, dugout boats.
Yes.
In
yes,
Guyana.
Yes, that's right. I was in two villages of the Warao people. Most Warao people are in the Orinoco Delta in Venezuela, but there are some adjacent to that in Guyana too.
Yes, I understand. There must be some pictures on Facebook. I must look there. Yes, of course.
Some photos are there, yeah, like photos with some descriptions. Like I was following very much like real time, like hoping to get some new information.
Tons of information. One thing that I found really interesting is that Imbotero is a fairly small village, maybe 450, 500 people. And the variety of the log boats is quite great. There are virtually all boats are expanded, but there are 2 or 3 different basic shapes of the basic expanded boat, and then there are also extended boats with either 1 or 2 courses of planks on them, 1 or 2 strakes. You've got many different shapes. You have boats with transoms, flat sterns, or pointed sterns. You've got boats that are paddled and boats that have engines on them. Just a couple with sails. But the variety of the boats for a single ethnic group in a small village was really quite noticeable. I had a canoe that was all my own to use the whole time I was there, and that was very nice. The village where I was at, you can't walk anywhere. The village is in a swamp, and to literally go anywhere to visit your next door neighbor, you need a canoe. And so I got fairly confident in using the dugout canoe that I rented. I spent a lot of time looking at how at the different economic activities of the village, and all economic activities require the use of a canoe. And people use them for fishing and collecting crabs and collecting hearts of palm, which they sell to an international company. And there is some farming, which is all done on land that they reclaim from the swamp. But to get to the area where they're farming, they have to go by canoe because it's up a number of very, very small winding creeks. So the entire life of the community is based on the use of canoes, and the whole economy of the community requires canoes.
If they have such a variety of the size and also shape, what about the tree? Do they use different species of trees for the logs, or is it mostly one, or what it is?
No, there are 3 or 4 favored trees. They do use a variety of trees. 3 or 4 of them that they prefer to use, but when I was there to demonstrate canoe building, someone chose a completely different kind of tree because it was just easier to work with. He was doing it as a demonstration, so he chose a tree that was rather softwood, not a very durable one, but very easy to cut. But the most popular tree is called the Mora, M-O-R-A. It's Mora excelsus, and it's very hard tree, very dense, hard to work. It requires a great deal of work to cut and to shape, but excellent durability. There's a white cedar that's lighter, easier to work with, not as durable, but it's also used commonly. And there's a third one. I only have the native name for it. I haven't been able to figure out what it is in the Latin name for it. I'm still working on that.
So you will publish something now in coming year?
I hope to. Most of this is going into my thesis, my doctoral dissertation. So that's what I'm mostly working on. But it's possible that I will write an article or two before I finish the thesis.
Yeah, it seems we will not be more than us, 3 of us today. Yeah, that I think it's okay. Thank you for joining, Bob. So otherwise we would have been just 2 with Mikhail. We agreed 2 days ago that we can maybe do this chat.
So what's the agenda?
Now, when I visited Vadlazorski Park, Vodlajärvi Park in Karelia and met Mika, then he was mostly known for building Shnjaka, this suit type of boat, like a bigger plank boats, but sewed with roots of spruce mainly. Yeah?
Okay.
But also then he was building a dugout boat and attached two planks, like they extended with two boards. So, and this type has never been used in Soma, in our area here. But I have always been thinking, like, why not to try to have one of my dugout boats, one of my expanded logboats, also with extended boards. Yeah. So so as Mika has done it, so I'm curious to ask him like a lot of these questions about how he did it and what kind of things should I be taking in consideration, like what should I avoid, or what should I do when I'm doing now this boat.
I see. Okay.
So and you can of course just come also with your question when you have. I mean, there is no other topic. So, and I think if we will be focused on this, it will be also interesting to watch maybe later. So is it okay for both of you that we record it and I little bit maybe edit, but later also others can see it?
Fine with me.
Yes, fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't think there is much to say about it. It's just like adding an extra board to any clinker board.
Mm-hmm.
Just the same process. Of course, the boat, the dugout hull has a different shape and some problems can appear, but generally it's the same process. Anyone who have experience building a clinker boat can do that also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was what I was thinking also. So what I should do also to contact someone here in Estonia who is building clinker boats, because I have never done it. So I have built 15 dugout boats during 25 years, but not any of the clinker boats. So it will be a new experience.
Do you add any timbers at the ends as a stem and a stern post to fasten the ends of the planks to?
Yes, I did add a stern and the stem. They were slightly, not very slightly, actually hollow too, because those boats were, one of them was a copy of an ancient find, archaeological find, which apparently had such a stern and stem blocks. It was not just posts, it was hollowed blocks with rather thin edges where the ends of planking was attached to, but also by sewing with this. And on the other boat, I did it too. It wasn't just like sticks. It was just like somewhat like hollowed blocks with edges.
So you have built how many dugout boats in total?
Just two, both of them with extra planks on each side. Each side.
But did you had any kind of model, or was it kind of copying some found, like building a replica, or how did you go about it?
The first one was a replica of archaeological find in Tuna in Bodelunda in Sweden. The original was very badly preserved, only the bottom part. So the upper part was mostly conjectured and accordingly to technique used. But there were some several other finds with added planks of dugout bottom with added planks, and it went rather logically, just the same.
So both of them you built in your place in Podlazorski, or only one?
This was supposed to be, yes, only one like that, like dugout with boards. It was supposed to be a reconstruction of medieval Novgorod river craft, which were used to travel on rivers across the northern part of Russia. So I did study some finds in Novgorod, but they were not. They didn't have extra planks on each side. They were just dugout. I did study several dugout parts in Novgorod Museum in their storage, but they were not anything new, not anything extraordinary, just like any other ancient dugout. Some techniques were visible there.
I am sharing my screen. Do you see it?
Yes.
So this is this Tuna Padelunda.
Yes, this is how it looked in the ground, what was preserved of it. It was impregnated with some stuff like wax. One can hardly see the real wood there. It's just some brown stuff. It's kept in Västerås Museum now.
Your replica or the original?
No, the original find. It's even in exposition. One can go and look at it.
I am on the website of Roskilde Viking Ship Museum, and am I correct, Bob, that yeah?
No, I think there was much later, in not so long ago, a few years ago, there was another boat builder who built another replica of it.
Yes, I think this is
maybe
describing it.
I don't know. I was building it in Stockholm. Building it in Stockholm, not in Roskilde.
Yes. This website that I am sharing, this is from Denmark, from Roskilde, and they have done it just some years ago.
Yes, a few years ago, I think like 5 years ago. So. Yes.
But am I correct, Bob, that you was translating this into the English, some brochure of 3 logboats?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You was a translator who translated it into English, the brochure of this museum about 3 logboats.
Oh, yeah. Yes, let me see. Old Krumlin Peterson was one of the authors, and he was the leader of the project. Very interesting book, really focusing more on the experimental method and the experiment than on the details of the boats themselves.
And also I have opened here the photos of this is made in Wadlazorski, right?
No, this photo. This is myself. Yes, with the other boat.
But it is there.
The previous photo was not me.
No. I mean this one.
This one, yes. This is photo of myself.
And these boats.
Yes, it has. You see the what you were interesting about the upper boards, they had a joint in the middle. It's easier to make it like that.
So you attach two boards.
Yes, they were. They had a joint. Could be called scarf in Scandinavian languages in the midships.
Was the reason for that that you couldn't find as long
No,
plant or
I
something
can't
else?
find a very long tree, but they should be rather wide, and they are not. If you unroll that plank into a plane, it wouldn't be straight. In any clinker board, the planks are not straight. They shaped like bananas or something like that. So out of a very wide plank, you get rather narrow. And joining them in the middle helps a lot to avoid that. And also, with those expanded bottoms, there are some problems. They have to be very wide near the stern, and the stem, you know, where the sides are lower, just before the pointed end.
Like
there are rather
here?
low dugouts, because you have to open that log. You have to dig it rather low. So the planks, to compensate for that, the planks are rather wide at those places. And at both ends, both at the stern and the stem.
Like the first meter you are talking about, yeah?
Yes, you see the shape of the plank is rather visible on this photo. So it's hard to make it out of one big plank.
I see. And the dugout bottom is aspen for sure.
Yes, this is.
But the
yes,
boards?
This is aspen. A Tuna Bodelunda is pine, which is very uncharacteristic for dugouts.
For a pine to be expanded.
Yes, it's very, very difficult to expand.
But the boards of your boat, what the material, what trees?
On this picture, this is also aspen, just like bottom. And they were also made with axe, not sewn on a sawmill.
This was my next question. Did you made it by axe?
Yes, I did. In all those archaeological boat replicas and reconstruction, I did it by axe.
And then you have been attaching on top of the board also like a thin piece of tree.
A gunnel?
Yes, the gunnel. But in this boat, it is mostly together with oarlocks. Oarlocks are made of a stem of a tree, I think birch tree, with a branch, you know, that sticking up. Part is made out of a branch. So the gunnel is made of two pieces with branches which make oarlocks, and some other pieces at the end, and at the ends, at the stern and at the stem, at the bow.
So this is birch, right?
Oarlocks are birch. They are the hardest wood to be found in that area in Karelia.
But in that case, if I would not use oars, but just a paddle Then this
Then you don't
additional
need it. But this boat is rather big to be paddled.
too
I
wide.
think, rather wide, yes.
Mhm.
And it is also not very stable. It's not as stable as a usual clinker boat. You
Mhm.
can, of course, row it in a rough weather. I did it, but you can hardly stand up and walk in it
Mhm.
when it's on water. You can, but in calm water, and if you have experience, but it feels not as good as a usual boat.
What
But
is
it is
the
very
size?
fast.
How long is it and how wide is it?
Now I don't even remember precisely. There must be the exact figures on that website, on that web page. I think the length is almost 6.5 or 7, between 6.5 and 7 meters, I think.
Mhm.
And I remember the width of expanded bottom without planks was 1.4 meters,
Mhm.
meter and 40 centimeters. And the boards, they something like meter 60, 1.6 meter the overall width. But that I don't exactly
Mhm.
remember now. There must be those figures on the web page.
Mhm. And you didn't when you built the dugout boat, the bottom, you didn't make the bottom flat. Yeah, it is just roundy as a natural.
Yes, it was just as a log was round. It was, of course, straightened in some places where it had bumps. But generally, I tried to preserve as much of the original log as possible to make it wider, to make
Mhm.
the hull wider.
The usual boat that is traditional here in Soma, the bottom has made flat first. Yeah,
Probably to make it more stable on water.
exactly. So it will make it stable, and also this boat that I hope to attach boards, it already has a flat bottom. Like let's say out of the log, even like 1/5 is taken away for the bottom.
Yes, it will make it somewhat more stable.
Mhm. But this one on a photo, is this the Novgorod, Nizhny Novgorod?
It is not Nizhny Novgorod, it is Veliki Novgorod
Veliki Novgorod.
in Russia. It was the capital of first Russian state, not first, but before Moscow came to power, it was the center of Russia.
And these boats was in different shape, size, of course. Like you made with such length, but there was also longer ones, bigger ones.
I didn't have any example or an original find to copy. It was just like a it was meant for some real expeditions on Russian rivers, and so I made it the size that those who were planning the expedition told me, which to their preference. But it looks like close to optimal for those purposes. There were some Land portages also planned, so the boat mustn't be too big. It must be light enough to portage, and it is light. It's lighter than a similar clinker boat, and it is very, very fast on oars indeed.
Can you guess the weight? Do you remember?
I didn't put it on scales. I don't know the exact weight, and it also depends very much on humidity. And but I think the dry boat is less than 100 kilos, about 100 kilos. But I don't think more. Not
so
more.
here we see the ribs, yeah?
Yes.
Made of spruce or something else?
Yes, most, as far as I remember, they were all spruce, but some could be pine. I don't even.
And this, how they look, this is also kind of the copy of the found, yeah. Or is here your own design?
It was found in many places, in many archaeological finds, this system of tying ribs to the hull. Those bumps, they called it, I don't know, clumps or something like that, with holes, they were left inside when digging out on the inner surface of the future boat.
Yes, Mika, I would call those cleats.
Cleats. Oh yes, I read this word in some paper too. Yes.
I'm surprised at how narrow the cleats are. Is that accurate based on the archaeological evidence?
I did see several pieces of dugout boats, even without additional boards, that had such cleats. And I remember them in my hands, and I remember they were about the same width. They were narrow, and the wide ones would somehow impede the process of expanding it. When it's too fine, it makes an obstacle. It makes a harder spot on the hull.
I see.
It doesn't expect the same rate as the other places which don't have those cleats. And
okay.
It makes it uneven. It increases the risk of cracking.
Okay, that makes sense. You've done beautiful work. I'm really impressed by the workmanship. This photo especially. I love how you've done this.
Well, thank you. Did you see some similar cleats on those Guyana boats or Venezuela dugouts?
No.
Do they have metal nails too?
Yeah. Yes. They're all fastened with metal nails. They usually do not have internal frames. There are a few examples with frames, but usually the planks are just nailed directly into the sides of the dugout base.
How do they keep shape without frames? Any expanded dugout has a thin walls. I think it doesn't keep its shape very good, and it has a tendency to roll again into its original shape.
Some of them, they have either thwarts or sometimes just a wooden plank for a bench that's press fit into the bottom.
Yes, I see. And they must be thicker than this my boat or original boats in Tunei Bodelunda. These the thickness of that hull is like 18 millimeters, somewhere even thinner. The Tunei Bodelunda is even thinner, like 14, 15 millimeters. I think those Guyana boats were much thicker. That's what I
Yes,
believe.
yes, more
thick?
more like well, minimum 2 centimeters up to 3 centimeters on the sides.
Yes, it sounds rather hard to expand much. Are they do they have very thick trees? How much do they expand them?
Just a moment. I've got these figures.
If I may comment, because I had the same question when Bob was posting some photos of the expanding process, maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
And what I remember, they was expanding very little.
Okay. Okay. On this particular boat, it was 4.5 meters long. Before expansion, it was 490 millimeters. After expansion, it was 670 millimeters. So
yes, I understand. They don't expand it that much.
right,
Because this bottom you see here, or those made in Estonia by Aivar, they almost like complete circle with only opening on the top, and they become that shape, rather shallow and wide.
right.
So the rate of extension is apparently much greater, and thus the walls must be thinner.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, I believe you're right. The opening on the boat in the photo that we're looking at right now, it's opened to be much wider, much shallower than the canoes that I was looking at.
I wanted to go back to this cleats, yeah, cleat is a
Yes,
right. So here you see a photo of our Soma boat. I tried to make it a bit bigger. It doesn't go, but you see also for our boats there are 3 cleats, and usually this Soma boat has always 5 ribs, or how do you call it?
Yes.
Spangots.
Yes, span.
And there is 1 cleat in the bottom, and 2 of them like maybe 12-15 centimeters from the side. So this is the way to make it, and you same way like on your suit boats here has been used rope, earlier times maybe linden or roots of the spruce, these tiny roots.
What I found that spruce sewing boards with spruce roots or any trees roots, it looks like a legend in literature. The real things were withes made out of branches, and many of them spruce branches, some of them juniper branches. This was the only sewing material I could detect. We were doing some expertise, the microbotanical expertise, whatever it's called, to determine the species under the microscope. So we found only 2 two things in Russia: spruce branches and juniper branches used for sewing boats. Those spruce roots, apparently, they could be used by Sami people somewhere in northern Finland, maybe even in northern Russia, but it was not very characteristic material. With this made of branches are much better. They much stronger and much more pleasant to work with, just because they are stronger.
And how about linden bark?
That bust, I don't think it is a good idea. I saw one Sami boat in Swedish museum made with it. It was an experiment by Sami people. Linden doesn't grow in their places. They were getting those linden busts from some rocks that were imported from Russia. They were used to transport grain or flour or something like that. And it was apparently an experiment and not very successful one. I don't know any other original source about or archaeological find which definitely said linden bust. It is not a strong material in those thin places. It is also flexible, some sort of elastic. I don't think it's a good material. It might be also. It was an article by Gustav Hallström, the Swedish ethnographer, who described the technique used by Sami people. And the article must be very popular in those days. And so people started to think it was the common material, which is not the case. Other Sami boats were sewn with hemp ropes or twines or some small ropes of hemp, and also with some wooden material, probably the same spruce and juniper roots.
At least according to the to this information from our builders, our teachers, the previous generation, they said this linden bust was very typical former times for sewing
sewing
the ribs.
Ribs, yes, the ribs. It is different thing. It was very possible. Also, I remember some archaeological find. I don't remember exactly which now, but I remember in some boat those ribs were sewn with strips of birch bark. It also doesn't sound like a very strong material, but they were such like an elastic tape many
times.
Yes. The ribs are different things. It is possible, yes.
Because ribs should even go a little bit like elastic.
Yes.
Because the hull is kind of playing, then the ribs are playing also.
Yes, well, I was talking about sewing planking together.
Exactly, so it has to be very tight. My one more question is the number of the ribs. Yeah, on your boat there are much more of them. How did you decide it? Just because of it was found, or you just calculated?
Accordingly to my experience with other boats, the clinker boats, which had even more of them. So I felt it should be something like that.
Yeah.
In that original tuna but the Lunda boat, all ribs were found. We can see them. I think 5 of them also. I don't even remember, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But it was smaller. Here we can see 4, but I think they were 5.
This is only, yeah. I cannot find the length, but it was smaller.
The length is about 6 meters, 6 and something too. But the boat is narrow and lighter. It was apparently the original was very light. They decided that the thickness was like 12 to 15 millimeters in average.
So typical for Soma boat is that it has 5 ribs. So
Yeah.
do you think I should have them more, like maybe 7 for the length?
If you make a bigger boat, longer and wider, you need an extra strength. If it has thin planks on sides and thin bottom, the ribs must be more, so to say, frequent, smaller, smaller
often.
distance. Yes, more often.
Yeah, this one here. So do you see? Yeah, it is a stem, right?
Yes, stem or stern. I don't know, but they are very similar. They the same design.
So for that you used aspen as well, right?
No, it was a curved piece of wood. I think even pine, maybe spruce, but I think pine in this case. It doesn't matter if it is pine or spruce. And I found a curved tree suitable.
With a natural
curve, yes. And the part which goes to the bottom is just like a stick. It's a whole stick and with 3 nails. And the upper part where the planks on the sides come to it, it is hollowed inside to make rather thin edges to which the planks were sewn to.
But this construction of the stem, it was also the copy of a found, or more your creation of your by experience.
It is partly by experience and partly by several different finds which had something similar. I remember Björke boat find in Sweden which had this system of blocks which were just like hollowed. And in clinker boats, the older clinker boats which were sewn and not nailed at these places, even to the stem and the stern, they had hollowed pieces for stem and the stern. Post, not the post just like a stick, but a hollowed piece. Viking ships too. By the way, in some Viking ships which were clinker built, a classical clinker ship, they had those cleats on planks too, and the ribs were tied to them in the same manner, like in dugouts board. In those famous Oseberg and Gokstad ships, at the bottom, all planks had cleats like this, and all the ribs were tied or lashed to it with withes, I think spruce withes.
So cleats are like an older way of attaching ribs to the hull.
Yes, they are thought to be to give more elasticity, and they help to avoid cracks in the planks. Because if you put a nail through such a thin bottom, it is very likely that the nail will start a crack.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is because this is why your Soma boats have cleats, and do they have nails there into the ribs?
No, we don't have any nails. It is just the same way with cleats.
Yes, so
three per every rib.
Use nails. Yes,
But
be careful if you use nails.
But of course, in Matsalome region, which is another region in Soma, well, after Second World War, the boats are not built anymore, but it was a living culture in 1920s and 30s. So many boats was built that time, and they had attached board, but they didn't have cleats, so they always had already using nails. I will try if I can find here
Yes, some experience. If how they did it, they were rather cautious where to put nails and how many.
Mm-hmm. So here you see one Matsalu type of boat in museum in Käsmu, and also in Tartu, in Tallinn, in Pärnu, and some smaller museums. Hanila is a small place in the region where
but
this
they are not expended that much. They are not that much expended, as I see. I think they remind those in proportions those Guyana boats.
No, it is still wider. Maybe the photo, the angle is not giving a good idea. Because in Tallinn Museum, there are both of them, Soma and the Matsalu boat, and they are not that different in the expanding rate.
I see.
But you can see the ribs are like this, tiny, and attached with nails. For this Soma boat, the ribs are also much bigger. I don't know what the reason, but they're stronger, kind of. And also in Matsalu, then one extra board was attached. As you see, it's of course not as wide as for your boat, but still it kind of gives
but it
more
has
height.
a different shape and different proportion. It doesn't need an extra stern and stem blocks because the log was so thick. The necessary height, it gives the necessary height without adding any blocks. So by the size of this stern or the stem, which we see here, I can judge that the log was very, very thick in diameter.
Also, for this specific boat that I have now in my mind, it is a similar shape. So the log is 60 centimeters diameter. And
in the middle of the board, 60 centimeters.
no, the smaller edge, the top.
So the bottom is more than 80 centimeters.
Around 80.
Yeah.
But of course, it is short. It is only 5 meters.
Mhm.
So it will be more kind of shorter than a normal Soma standard, and also wider. So it's more around here already. So of course, I will see more different ways to attach this board, and
Mhm.
let's see. It will be also kind of experimenting more than copying a specific boat.
Maybe I suggest an experiment like that. Take some piece of plank and try to not to attach really, but to put at the side of some of your ready dugout boats and see how it comes to it, and you will immediately see where the problems will be, what kind of problems, how if it will be difficult to bend that plank, because at some places it is difficult. It's it's more difficult as with usual clinker board. It has different problems. Some places where the bend is rather sharp, and other places no bend at all. Or you can even cut a piece of cardboard and try to attach it to one of your dugouts and see how it comes to it.
Yes, this is the way how we do the ribs. We use cardboard. First we make it out of cardboard and then only go to the
yes,
wood.
And in all clinker boards, special clamps are used to fit and attach the boards. It's like a big pincer, or how should I call it? It's like a clamp. Before you put nails or do the sewing on the plank, when you fit it and cut it and do precise fitting, you always keep it on those clamps attached to the hull temporarily, not with nails. So you need several of those clamps, like 5 of them, and do some experiments with pieces of planks and your dugout boats to find out what to expect.
One other example is this well-known YouTube film from 1930s from Finland. I think you both have seen it, how the Satakunda people are building.
Yes, I think I saw it.
And they also attach the board. Just they are not doing it later, but they are doing it while after the expanding.
Yes. They had the experience, of course.
Yes. So here it is. Just let it go for a minute or two when they.
And as far as I remember, they you were using metal nails, not any kind of sewing.
I think
or trimming.
they don't have these cleats, so it is totally like, yeah, you can see it.
Yes,
no
I
cleats.
see. And they had nails, iron. They had steel nails, but it is worthwhile to watch where they put it. Probably only at the edges.
So you mean the ribs have only few nails on the edges?
I suspect it. Maybe only two at the edges. Even that can be. But where you have those cleats on your Soma boards, just
For
two
Soma,
nails maybe.
for Soma boat, we have one cleat in the bottom, in the middle, and two in
Yeah,
like
two.
a fifth.
Yes, so maybe
So-
they had two nails at where there were two upper cleats in Soma boards.
But you can see how experienced they are. Like they are.
Yes, there are several experienced people. They work
Yeah.
very quickly and they know
Yes.
what they do, but they also have rather they don't have the stem and stern posts. Their stern
No.
and stem is rather low. So the plank comes easier. It is not as banana shaped as
The planks are getting together.
Yes, and they are narrow at the stern and the stem. They become very narrow.
Very narrow, yeah, at the end. So, do you have anything to ask, Bob? Or I am thinking just to kind of round it up and.
No, no, I have no other questions. It's been interesting.
I will see the pictures of those boats in Guyana, and then I will have some questions. Or maybe some. Is there a video there of their building
No,
that sample?
No, I did not take video. I documented it with still photos.
So yes,
And-
but my question would be if I can read that documentation and when and where.
Okay, well, it's going into my PhD dissertation.
Yes. So
So there's nothing public yet.
I see. But well, when possible, I will read it, of course.
Thank you. I will consider doing a presentation for this group
Yes, that would
in
be
the next couple
and if
months.
we also can ask questions after that presentation.
Yeah, and so if I do that, I probably will. I'll show lots and lots of photos, and I'll be glad to take questions then.
But this
Yes,
is a
that would
really
be
good idea. We don't need to decide now when, but maybe September, maybe October, maybe November. So let's keep in touch and looking forward that you will do kind of like a special Zoom meeting of our group and share what you have seen there and like in this similar way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
What's the weather there in Israel, Mika?
Hot. I'm
40.
in desert. Hot. 30 degrees, sometimes up to 40.
Yes, yes. So how do you survive?
It's not very hard to survive. The humidity is low. It doesn't feel that hard.
So thank you. It was very
thank
interesting.
you.
I probably will have a lot of questions when I start doing it, but
any time you can ask me, and I will have some questions too.
yes, let's see. Let's see. Maybe I think I will go same way as these Finnish guys with nails. It is just so much less work.
Of course, but well, you have to find out where they were putting the nails exactly and how. Maybe there were some tricks against cracks.
And I have one of these Matsalu boats here in Pärnu, just 2 kilometers where I'm sitting is a museum, and they have this Matsalu kind of with extra boats.
Oh, but its shape looks different somewhat. Maybe it,
Mhm. It's
at
not as
and then look carefully where they put the nails. How
Mhm.
many were? Yes, and
So have a nice evening.
yes, everybody. You too. Thank you.
Goodbye and
Yes, bye.
nice continuation of the summer.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye.